everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to be talking about my almost favorites of 2021. These are all the books that I consider to be my favorites. They might be 5 stars, they might be 4.5 stars, or they might be just out of the running for my favorites, but they still deserve to be talked about because they're all amazing books. Without further ado, we're just gonna dive in. The first one I have on this list is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. So this was a 5-star for me that I read this year. This is a World War II historical novel that follows this little girl named Liesel and is narrated by Death. Follows her during the Nazi occupation and the World War as it goes on. It is deeply, deeply sad, and it is, even though it is a 5-star, it just didn't quite make it into my favorites of the year, and I think that's just because it hurt me too much. It hurt me too much to be considered a favorite of the year, but it is absolutely wonderful, and I highly recommend this. This book drained me of all I had. Everything that I had inside my soul, it drained me. So that is why it is an almost favorite of the year. It deserves to be read by everybody in some capacity. It really, really does. The next one on this list, I don't actually have with me. I left it at my parents' place, but that is Gideon the Ninth. So I will hold up Harrow the Ninth in its place. And Gideon the Ninth is definitely a favorite of the year, but almost favorite because it just ended up being 4.5 stars, and it wasn't quite like a brand new favorite, but I can tell that this is going to be a favorite series of all time as I go through it. But yes, Gideon the Ninth, I have yet to read Harrow, which is the second one, but Gideon was just so much fun. It was exactly what I needed to read at that time that I read it. It was just the perfect amount of crass humor, and it was so chaotic. I didn't know what was going on half the time because the characters didn't know what was going on half the time, and that is my favorite kind of book. When you can have still so much fun even though you don't know what's going on. When that's done really well, it's done very well. I have another book on this list that is like that as well, that it's a weird trope that I seem to like if it's done well, because if I don't understand what's going on and I'm not having a good time, then I hate the book. So it's like a very fine line of what it does to become a new favorite book of mine. But yeah, Gideon the Ninth. So Gideon, I don't even know how to explain this book, but it is about Gideon and Harrow Hark, and they are from the 9th planet, which is a dead planet, and they go, and Gideon becomes Harrow's cavalier, which is kind of like a bodyguard. When Harrow goes to the first planet, no, they go to the dying planet. That's right. The 9th planet isn't dead yet. They're just obsessed with death and bones, and it's their aesthetic. If the first planet is a dead planet, and so they go there and they stay in this mansion with all these other necromancers and cavaliers from all the other houses, the 9th house, right? First house, second house, third house, onwards. It's like a murder mystery in space. It's fantastic. Like, something's happening and people are dying, and it's also gay and like slow burn, and it's just enemies to lovers, and it's so good, and I love it so much. And yeah, definitely a top book of the year for me, for sure. The next one on this list is Hall of Smoke by Hannah Long. You guys know how much I love Hannah Long, and her amazing book, Hall of Smoke, I believe I gave it 4.5 stars when I first read it really early this year. It was such a great book to start off the year with. Again, it wasn't quite a 5-star for me, so it wasn't quite a favorite of the year, but it's definitely a memorable one from the year. I absolutely love this, and I can't wait to read her second book, which I am like 10% of the way through right now because I have an e-arc. It is being released in January. I'm so excited to have that in my hands as well because the cover is gorgeous, just like Hall of Smoke is. So Hall of Smoke follows Hessa, who is a priestess of Yang, and at the beginning of this, Hessa is banished for disobeying her priestess. She witnesses like the massacre of her people, and so she goes on this quest to basically get back in her goddess's good graces at the same time that there is a cosmic war happening between the old gods and the new. There's a lot happening in this book, but it is so wonderful. The world building, I think, is my favorite part, and the different kind of characters that we come across. Like, we come across the son of a god who is just kind of the super charismatic being, and he's so interesting to read about. And then we have the goddesses and the gods that are in this world and their plight that's happening. This is a fantastic, fantastic book, and I absolutely love it. And I'm loving A Temple of No Gods, which is the second one so far. So good. The next one is one that I believe I gave either 4.5 or 5 stars as well. These are all like top rated books of the year for sure. And this one made it to this list because the main character, I saw scarily too much of myself in her. It made me look inwards in a way that I was not expecting. And that is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. So this is pitched as a romance, and I really don't think it is. It wasn't the focus. I think the focus was our main character, Grace, falling in love with herself again and coming to terms with the fact that she has like issues that she needs to figure out, and she needs to go to therapy, and she needs to really just kind of come to terms with who she is and what she wants to do. And it's this like, it's the moment when you step out of academia and go into adulthood, that really tumultuous time, which I am still arguably in the middle of, even though I've been out of university for 2 years now and almost 3. Oh my God. And it's like, it's just this moment of on the cusp of all of this change, and you're going through that change, and it's feeling so stuck, yet feeling like the whole world is falling apart at the same time. So this book really touched me in so many different ways, and that is why it is going to be such a memorable book for me. I don't know if I'll ever be able to reread this book because it hit me so hard, but I hope one day I can revisit it to see if it still hits me the same way. But it was lovely. This one follows Grace, who, like, the pitch of this book is that she, at the beginning of the book, goes to Vegas and drunkenly gets married to a girl who then, like, basically leaves her calling card and says, hey, come hit me up in New York or whatever. It's Grace deciding to just drop everything and go to New York and not face her responsibilities and go live with this girl and get to know her. So it's their relationship, and that's like the romance part of it, and I really didn't like that. They just didn't have any chemistry to me, but it's that part of it and how that ties into her finding herself, and then it's all that, as I said before, all the culmination of the big changes in your life. The next one that I'm going to talk about is a middle grade that I came across that was actually recommended to me by Kat, who is also one of my beta readers, or who is my beta reader, I should probably say. This is the John Stevens Books of Beginning trilogy. So I read the first one so far this year, and I do plan on trying to fit the second one in before the end of the year. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen, but I will read the next 2 very, very soon if I can. Now that all my books are now unpacked with me, I can access my books anytime that I want. So this book follows 3 orphaned kids. They are brothers and sisters, and during this kind of movement between orphanages, because they keep getting kicked around to different orphanages, they come across this orphanage that doesn't really even seem to exist. There are no kids on this island, and then they come across a book that takes them back in time, about 15 years to this moment where all of this really terrible stuff started happening in this place. The Enchanted Atlas goes from there. So it's called the Books of Beginning because there's a set of books in this world that can do this, that can take you in different places in the world. And there can only be one book in one moment in time. Anyways, it was very, very well done. And I've been thinking about this middle grade since I read it. It's just, it's wonderful. And I really liked the family dynamics in that one as well. All right, the next one that is an almost favorite of mine is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This one I read as part of the Sapphic Trifecta. The Sapphic Trifecta is the 3 really big Sapphic books that were released this year by Orbit and Tor. And this one just was lovely and so good, and I think I'm gonna like it even more upon a reread. This one follows Zhu Chongba as a young girl, and as she grows up and takes her brother's identity, and it's just her movement through life, and it chronicles her life quite like the Poppy War does, chronicling Rin's life. This chronicles Zhu's life from a young girl up until when she is an adult and she's a part of these wars, and like she's being this big kind of figurehead in these wars as well. So I really liked this one. It did have just like a little bit of distance for me, which is why I really want to reread it, because I'm wondering if I just read it at a weird time in my life and I just didn't connect to the book in the right way. But this was just wonderful, and that's why it is on this list, because it is a friggin' masterpiece, which I love that book. the next one is Jade City by Fonda Lee. So again, this is another 4.5 star, and I absolutely love this book. So this was my first foray into the Greenbone saga, and I am currently 70% of the way through Jade War, and I'm about to finish it, which is great. I am liking Jade War less than I loved Jade City though, but it's still a fantastic read. Like right now it's at a 4 star for me, but this one definitely 4.5. I am just so in love with this world, and I cannot wait to kind of see how Fonda Lee takes it into the ending of Jade War and then the beginning of Jade Legacy, and that whole epic that is Jade Legacy that I've heard is just incredible. But this one is so fantastic. So the Greenbone Saga follows these various players in this big Call family, and they are the rulers of the No Peak clan. And in this fictional city of Janloon, there are 2 ruling clans, and it is ruled by the product of jade. And so in this world, there are people who are called Greenbone warriors or Greenbones, and they are the ones who can wear jade and become exceptional. They have the ability to kind of use almost like the force in a way with jade. They can deflect, they can use strength to steel up their bodies, they can have like super lightness, super speed, super perception. It's one of those things. Jade is a substance that they wear, and you can wear progressively more jade, but your jade tolerance is at risk. It's this whole thing. These 2 clans are at war, or like starting to be, like tensions are really high in this book, and it follows that family as all these like pieces are kind of shifting around in this giant tectonic plate of a world. And it was just so good, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And this is one of the books that when I read a part of it, it is so hard to surprise me in books anymore, because I can recognize when story beats are coming. I know how a book is put together, and so I can expect when like big turns are going to happen. Like the midpoint is always going to be a big turn, and then there's going to be something really terrible at the 75% mark. But when a book can surprise me with something and make me gasp out loud and have to sit there for a few minutes and go, oh my god, Fonda Lee went there, that's when you know it's great. So I really liked Jade City, and oh, it's so good, and I'm so excited to go on with the rest of the Greenbone Saga. All right, I believe we have 3 more to talk about, 4 more to talk about. Yeah, 4 more to talk about. We're going to talk about one of them that I don't have physically with me first, and that is An Absolute Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This is the first in his like urban sci-fi duology, and I was so surprised by this one. It was so good, and I went in with such low expectations thinking that it wasn't really going to be for me, but I came out of it sitting going like, this was just exceptionally well done. It is, before anything else, a look at what fame does to people, especially in an age of social media like we are in today. Like with YouTube and the idea of media being at your fingertips so quickly, and like live streaming and all this kind of stuff, which is just fascinating as to what that does to people. And so it follows our main character as she experiences the Carls, which are these like statues that appear overnight in like seconds. She's the first one to experience it and document it. And so she becomes really famous this way, and she gets entrenched in like the research as to what Carls are, and she is like the head runner of a lot of it. So, oh god, I really liked this book. It was so interesting to see how fame really got to her and completely changed her. She was such an unlikable character. I really hated her, but I find her story so fascinating, and I'm so excited to be able to get a chance to read the second one and to listen to the audiobook as well, because I know Hank Green actually narrates a part of it as well, which I find really cool. So yeah, very much that one was an almost favorite of the year. Let's talk about another one that I read right near the beginning of the year, and that is The City We Became by N.K. Jennsmas. Just like Gideon the Ninth, this is a weird sci-fi that I had no idea what was going on for most of it, but I was having a great time. I really loved this. So this is N.K. Jemisin's urban sci-fi fantasy almost of the personification and embodiment of the 5 boroughs of New York in people, in beings, and it's their fight against this entity that is trying to destroy New York. And so it is just epic and so bizarre and creepy, and I really like the audiobook because the audiobook actually has these sounds that go with it. When certain parts of the book happen, there's like creepy sounds that kind of like come up and like drift up from the background, and this cover in like you can kind of see the reflection there. There's like all these weird tentacles that kind of just like overwhelm New York, which is so creepy and gross, but I loved this, and I am so wicked excited that Anki Jemisin, I believe she's working on book 2 right now. I'm so excited for book 2, you guys. I'm so excited to see where this idea goes with the embodiment of New York City. Oh, I should have said there's 5 boroughs plus New York City itself are all embodied in people. In the people of New York. And it's so interesting to see how they react to the city and things that are happening to their city, i.e. happening to them. It's wild and so strange, but I so loved it. And oh yeah, definitely an almost favorite of the year. Another one that I'm talking about that I don't have physically, I mean, I do have her books, but not the ones that I'm talking about. I'll just hold this one up for Becky Chambers, but I'm gonna just lump all of the Becky Chambers books into one as like an almost favorite of the year. Not necessarily this one, but her Wayfarer series definitely makes it up there as like one of my favorite series that I read this year. And I just absolutely love being in a Becky Chambers world. She is probably my new favorite author that I experienced this year. And that's all due to my friends telling me to read Becky Chambers and my reading out of my comfort zone sci-fi video where I read Long Way to a Small Angry Planet for the first time. I absolutely adore Becky Chambers and her works. And you will see a book of hers featured in my favorites video of the year because she is just exceptional with what she does. So the Wayfarer series is a space opera, but at the same time, even though it's set in this really expansive universe, it is so introspective and human and intimate, and it's soft and very, very safe feeling. It's one of the only books that I've ever come across that I've read that I can read a scene and not expect a really happy, lovely scene, for example, of 2 people going on an aircraft together for a romantic ride. I can enjoy the scene for what it is and not expect it to all be ruined at the end for just to move the plot along. Like, Becky's books don't really have plot, but they are so wonderful to read because it is the change of character that really carries the story along. And I love her books so much. So she definitely had to make it onto this almost favorites of the year because, especially with her Wayfarer series, this is not part of the Wayfarer series. This is one of her novellas. Her Wayfarer series is my favorite. And I think my favorite out of all of them, I have 2. I believe A Closed and Common Orbit is one of them. And then the 4th book in that series, A Galaxy and a Ground Within, almost made it onto my favorites list. So I had to mention both of them in this list. And then A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is just amazing because it's the first book in the series and it's what made me fall in love with Becky Chambers. So all in all, really, really, really good. All right, the last book that I want to talk about today is, you guys have probably been waiting for this one to see if this one would show up on this list, because if you've been around on my channel for a while, you know I've been talking about this book non-stop, and that is The Wolf of Oron series, or The Chronicles of the Bitch Queen by K.S. Veloso. This trilogy is just taking over my life. Like, it is just so good. This book I gave 4.5 stars, which is why I'm featuring it on this almost favorites list. It just didn't quite make it to the favorites, and the second book didn't quite make it to the favorites either, and I haven't even really started the third, so this is why it's on an almost favorites. But oh my god, this book is fantastic. I am in love with it. I'm in love with the world building. I'm in love with the characters, like Kine, who is my new favorite ever. I love him so much, and Queen Tal is just exceptional. So this follows Queen Tal, who makes a decision at the beginning of the book to follow a letter that her estranged husband sends her, which ends up getting her so lost in another city of another kind of kingdom that doesn't recognize her as queen. And from there, it just goes. This first book is her trying to dig herself back up from rock bottom. And the second book is that continued, and in her, and it's like the bigger political stakes that are happening at the same time. And the third book is just going to be the culmination of that. And I'm so excited to see where it goes. But oh, This is just fabulous, and K.S. Veloso is incredible. Every time that she releases a new book on Twitter, like she teases books, or she's got a bunch of self-published works as well that are in this world. So like as soon as she said that, I was like, well, hell, I'm going to get them. So I've got them on my Kindle app, and I'm so excited to read them as well when I'm done the trilogy, to just keep living in this world, because the world is just delicious. And it's because she's been writing and working and playing in this world for 15 years. Feels so real for that reason especially. Like it just feels like I'm living in a well-trodden fantasy world, and that's exactly what I want with my world building and in my fantasy worlds. Like, oh, it's just so good. It's so good, and everybody needs to read at least one of these books that I mentioned today, because they are all fabulous friggin' books. And they're so good. Just all of them. They're just, oh, so good. I love them all so deeply. But anyways, my friends, that's it from me today. Thank you very much for hanging out with me on this lovely day of Jennsmas. Stick around, make sure to like this video if you did, and comment down below what is a almost favorite of yours that you read this year. Or if you've read any of these books, let me know. Or if you just don't know what to comment, comment me a little starburst emoji. For no reason at all, just starburst. Make sure to subscribe, because I am going to be putting out 10 days of content this end of the year, and you don't want to miss out. So make sure also to hit that little bell icon so you know when I upload, because it's going to be a little bit different than my usual Tuesday, Friday uploading for the rest of the year. We've come to the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in another video very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.